Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today, we have the Ferrum Forge Prolix. Cool new little knife out from Ferrum Forge. Not that little, kind of little. We'll get into it more in specs and size comparisons and all that. This is kind of in their new sort of preferred configuration, I guess. This is the second in a row Nitro V steel bladed knife they've come out with, which is pretty cool steel. We'll talk more about that when we get to the blade. This happens to be the kind of special launch edition carbon fiber. They do this with a lot of them. I had the mini Archbishop in the same kind of version. These are probably going to be one and done. They're 110 bucks. Usually when this run is out, they're out. But the other versions in G10 for $90 are going to be available for quite a while, as we'll talk about with the Ferrum Forge Stinger, if that was available for a long time. And the G10 ones are going to be replenished. If they run out, they'll come back. But as of, just to verify, 7:14 p.m. on December 16th, they are still available on the website in all the versions, the carbon and all the G10s. So if you want one, go snag one. And you'll see by the end of this, I probably recommend maybe you should. It's a pretty cool knife. It's not quite the usual Ferrum Forge design language. I mean, it doesn't, a lot of their knives, we'll bring the Stinger out again, look very, very Ferrum Forgey. This one doesn't as much. This kind of sheep's footy, Warncliffey blade, I don't know what they call it. I'm going to call it a sheep's foot. Isn't usually their style. The long, deployment hole is kind of a thing they do quite often. You can see even on the Stinger, they kind of hint at it. They have that little groove cut out. But it's not quite as swoopy as a lot of their designs are. And I think that's fine. I still think it's a good-looking knife. I really do like the look of it a whole lot. It is built by the Civivi Sencut Megaforce conglomerate that they are. But I like the look of it. I think it looks pretty good. This carbon's not the most impressive carbon in the world. I knew that when I ordered it. I had it on the Mini Arch, and I kind of wasn't as into it as I thought I would be. But yet, I did it again. It's not bad, but it's just not as nice as some others that you see. Nice deep carry pocket clip with a recessed clip screw, which is fantastic. G10 backspacer, running on bearings. And again, like I said, Nitro V steel, which is pretty unique amongst folders. Let's do some specs and some size comparisons before we go too much farther. You have a blade length of 2.85 inches, overall length of 6.6 inches, blade thickness of 0.12 inches, handle thickness of 0.39 inches, and a weight of 2.76 ounces according to my scale. Again, that is for the carbon fiber version. I don't think there's going to be a noticeable difference between this and the G10. G10 and carbon fiber, the weight is pretty even, and there's not a lot of it here. So you can see it's just these little overlay kind of scales. It's not, don't think you're even going to notice the weight difference at all, even on a scale, honestly. Let's do some size comparisons here. Start out with our usuals. You have your Spyderco Paramilitary 2 and the Para 3. And as you can see, it is significantly smaller than both of those. And for the Benchmades, we're going to call an audible here, just because obviously full-size grip, pretty close to this. It's obviously a lot smaller than the full-size grip that we usually use, so we're just going to grab a pair of bug outs. We have the full-size bug out. This happens to be the custom shop one, if you're wondering why it looks a little bit different, and the mini bug out. You can see very similar in overall length to the mini bug out. We're going to grab one more Benchmade because I have it out here because I'm packing it up to send it off to Metal Complex tomorrow. So if you want to see a review from him coming up, you'll see that if U.S. Postal decides to deliver it. This is the Benchmade 945, otherwise known as the Mini 940. So very similar in overall length to those two. Now, let's bring out a couple of other knives from the Civivi Sencut Trifectorate. We're going to come up with some word to describe them. This is the Sencut Actium. Pretty new model. Obviously a lot smaller than that. And one that it compares a bit more closely to, this is the Civivi Elementum. Both happen to be purple, both probably disappearing on your screens. Now I guess you can still see them, okay? Yeah, just a little bit smaller than an Elementum. And then also, we're going to bring up one more. I think I mentioned earlier that the Stinger finished second finished second in the best knife under $100 for 2020 in my little video, in my top 10 video. This is the one that finished first. This is the Civivi Ortis. So yeah, smaller than that. So it's a pretty small knife, not dramatically small. I still think it's fine for what I like to call a realistic EDC. Yes, if you're working on a work site or something like that, you might want, or law enforcement, like you might want a bit bigger knife. But for the kind of things that we actually honestly use our knives for every day, I think it's big enough. But if you prefer larger knives or just need a larger knife, it's a really good secondary knife still. So I think it's pretty good size packaging wise. As far as the blade goes, really nice. I like Nitro V a lot. It is very rare in the folding knife community. The only knives I can think of in folders that use it are this and its Stinger brethren, and then the Drop Perpetua. And that's kind of the only ones I can think of. It's pretty common in fixed blades, though, in like higher end fixed blades, custom fixed blades. It's a pretty common steel. I have pretty good luck with it, I do have to say. I would put edge retention somewhere in that S35 VN range. Ease of sharpening also probably somewhere in that range. But it does have a very good corrosion resistance. I have no issues with it. And this blade is really nice. It is pretty thin blade stock, 0.12 inches. 15 thousandths behind the edge. Kind of along the lines of what you would expect from the WE Civivi Sencut Axis. I'm just going to keep coming up with words for the huge group they're becoming. But they always do a really good job of keeping stuff very thin and slicey behind the edge. It is razor sharp out of the box, and I will say it does have a pretty good tip on it. Sheep's foot blades aren't really the best piercers in the world, but it'll be fine, again, for what most people are actually going to use it for. And it's got a pretty good tip on it. Not something I'd worry about snapping off if I did something just slightly wayward. Ergonomics, also excellent. It's definitely meant to be used. Use that forward to finger choil. It's definitely meant to be a choke up kind of knife. When you do that, the jimping lands in a very, very good spot. And again, for the kind of stuff we're using, opening boxes and stuff, which I can say, it's almost Christmas time. I've had this for a few days. Yeah, I've opened a lot of boxes and stuff with it. I've been carrying it every day for the last few days, and it's a great little box opener. It's really, really good. And again, ergos work excellently for the way I think it's meant to be carried, the way those handsome fellows at Ferrum Forge intend you to carry it. If you choke back on it, it's not super comfortable. I can barely get 4 fingers on it. I'd say, actually, honestly, I get about 3.83 fingers on it, and the pocket clip becomes a hot spot. It is not a hot spot if you're choked up. It is if you're using it like this. So yeah, it's definitely meant to be more of a kind of choke up kind of knife, which that's fine with me, honestly. As far as the carry goes, bring out EO Levi's. Carry's pretty good. Does have this little flipper tab, little pocket pecker is much more noticeable than I expected it to be. Just slide my hand past it, but it's still not horrible. And as I'll show you here in a moment, yeah, you see, you just kind of feel it. But as I'll show you now, if you peel back the curtain here, that little flipper tab is sticking out way up here in the pocket. Everything that's actually going to be in your pocket is going to be way down here. So I wouldn't really worry about it damaging anything in your pocket or anything like that. It's just a bit sharper than I expected, but the weight's great. It's very slim. It still carries overall pretty darn good. It just does have that bit of a scratchy bit from the flipper tab. As far as the action goes, I say this all the time, it's kind of almost a catchphrase. It's a WE. It's good. Everything they make, they know how to do a detent. Flipper tab the detent is perfect for it, and also you can spidey flick it. You can thumb flick it, and what's great about it is, since it's a liner lock, you're not worried about putting pressure on a lock bar or anything like that. If I have one complaint with this knife, and this is probably the best place to put it, is access to that lock bar is not amazing. Now, you definitely have to kind of jab your thumb in there, get the meat of your thumb in. It's not a whole lot of tension on it, so it's not horrible to open, but I would rather this. They cut it out a little bit, you can see there, but I'd rather it was cut out just a smidge more. I'm talking like a millimeter and a half, and I think it would just be a lot easier to access that lock bar. But other than that, I think the price is excellent, especially in the G10 version for $90. I personally, I mean, I did, but because I just bought this like a normal person, but I did pay the extra $20 for the carbon. I knew what the carbon was going to look like because I saw it before on the mini arch, but I did it again. I would get the G10. Bring out the Stinger again. The G10 is really nice on it, and I would if I had to do it again, I just got the black G10, exactly the same, but you know, I own them both. I wanted something different. And then one other, we're really nitpicking here. The packaging on this is just, guys, like, it comes out of the same factory as Civivis and Wii's. They have all that amazing packaging. Like, I know they can do it, but this is just like a plain old, it's just box. And it does have a little drawstring pouch in here with their logo on it, which that's kind of nice, but I don't know. I would just like to see something a little better than that. Again, it's not an expensive knife, but yeah, if I remember correctly, the Exec, which is another knife that the Ferrum Forge designed that's made by Wii, I think kind of came in the same sort of stuff, if I remember right. But overall, like, I like where Ferrum Forge is going with a lot of their stuff. You know, they used to be kind of a more custom knife, very expensive knives, and they started working with Wii on a lot of stuff, and they designed some Wii's. They had Wii make some of their own stuff, and I kind of like it because I like their designs a lot. They're good dudes, and it's just cool to see everything out in a, not only a price point that you can actually afford, actually be available. And they are pretty good about it. If you go to the they're on a few different retailer websites too. I know Blade HQ for sure stocks them a lot, but also if you go to ferrumforge.com, they restock stuff quite a bit. So I'm sure this is going to be a model that's going to be readily available because it's just a great knife. And Nitro V, it's a cool steel that a lot of people don't have, and in my experience is pretty darn good. So I do highly recommend it, with the caveat of just that lock bar is a bit hard to get to, and I just wish the packaging was nicer. I know some of you guys don't care about it. I do. It makes me feel like I spent a couple shekels more than I should have, and I just like that. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.